Sami is Palestinian. He has family in Gaza. And beyond anybody's possibility of understanding, has lost 17 members of his family to the bombings that have been going on. I'd like to introduce Rabbi Garfinkel, who has a statement to make, and then we will be discussing however this winds up. But our overall message to you, Franklin, is that when we can have a Palestinian and a Jew in the same room, in the same community, who are willing, able, and wanting to achieve the same ends of peaceful coexistence, this is a miracle that starts small, but exponentially is possible. Rabbi Garfinkel.
Dear Sami, please accept my heartfelt condolences on the deaths of your 17 family members in Gaza. I cannot imagine the grief that you must feel. Please know that the deaths of your family and all innocent Palestinians weigh on me and virtually all Jews very heavily. I hate Hamas, as I hope you do. Usually when I use the word hate, I don't mean it in the literal sense. I hate jackfruit, a gross waste of molecules. I hate boring romance movies. But this time, I do mean to use the word hate. I hate Hamas and all that it stands for. I hate what they did on October 7th, which included placing babies in ovens and turning on the flames, shooting into a house of children until the crying stopped. I must stress that I do not blame Palestinians or Muslims for these things. Only the terrorists themselves are guilty. Israel did not want this war. Israel did not start it. Israel has made some stunningly bad choices over the decades. I do not claim that Israel is innocent and pure as the white-driven snow. But Israel has done nothing at all to deserve what Hamas did. I hate that Hamas has put Israel in a position where there is simply no choice but utter devastation. October 7th cannot be pushed aside with a ceasefire, as that would grant Hamas the ability to reorganize, regroup, and fight to live another day. Hamas has said time and time again that they will repeat the October 7th attacks until Israel is destroyed, and they say that when they are done with Israel, they will come after me and my family. I believe them. These words create acid in my stomach. I want to throw up. I hate Hamas for forcing Israel to kill innocent people. Hamas's use of human shields, shooting those who tried to escape, and building their headquarters in hospitals, schools, and mosques is an inhuman, disgusting strategy. October 7th, however, changes everything in a positive way as well. Nothing can ever be the same after this. Albert Einstein said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, even if it doesn't work. And that is what is happening in the region. The way that Israel has dealt with the Palestinians is simply not working. In order for peace to happen, both Israel and the Palestinians will have to give up some long-held ideas. The Palestinians will have to once and for all give up the false and dangerous idea that Jews are European colonizers who have no rights as indigenous people. They will have to accept the idea that Jews need to be sovereign in part of the land because, frankly, history has proven that there is no alternative. The Israelis, for their part, will have to give up the idea that they can keep the Palestinians in limbo forever. It's bad for Palestine, it's bad for Israel. The time has come for Israel to finally and unilaterally withdraw from the non-Jewish cities of the West Bank and force the settlers in the smaller places that have blossomed to come back to Israel. Then there will be a three-state solution. Gaza can build Dubai on the Mediterranean. Palestine can build a functioning, peaceful state that thrives on agriculture, technology, medicine, and tourism. This is an extremely dangerous idea, and I'm going to get in huge trouble for suggesting it in public. There is no guarantee that allowing Palestinian independence won't land us right back in a state of war. But Palestinian and Gazan independence will grant the moral clarity that the region desperately needs. There is a thin line between a dream and a fantasy. What I have described is a dream. The will has to be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Sami, what are your thoughts?
So I'd first like to thank the rabbi for his heartfelt condolences. It's been excruciating, the pain over the past month. I'd like to say it was just the past month, but it's been since I was born. I've been faced with time after time attacks on my family that I just don't know where to go. And I mentioned this to you before. There's a million reasons why we can disagree, but we just have to find one reason that we can come together. When I was a young child, truth be told, I was embarrassed to call myself Palestinian because all the rhetoric on the news made me feel like an outsider. That only continued as I grew up, and then we had 9/11, and then as a Muslim, I felt, again, like an outsider. When I'm like, wait, I'm as American as apple pie. I've said this many times before. This is my country. Why do I feel this dissonance now? 2006, my uncle was shot and killed in Gaza in front of his 8 children. The youngest one was not even 1. The oldest one was 12. Those orphans in the past few weeks have been displaced yet again into the south of Gaza, into these tents. So now you have these orphans that are now traveling. Their father is dead. There's generational trauma. My uncle, similar location to what just happened now, in 2009, unfortunately, the house next to him was blown up. These were sort of like random acts in terms of the war. The stuff you see on the news is only a few percentage points of what actually happens on a daily basis. There's constant terror there. When he went, that house exploded, and typically what happens is the people will go down to try to excavate whoever might be surviving. So they went down, and as they sort of descended, my uncle saw them and noticed that there was still another bomb on its way down, yelled to them, and watched his 3 children explode into pieces in front of him. My cousins were 21, 19, and 17. The 21-year-old had the day before received $500 from my aunt because he was getting married the next day, and he didn't have the money to pay for the wedding. He died that day. He was, exploded. October 7th is a point in time. It was a horrific, horrific day, not just for Jewish people, for Palestinian people, because I knew what this was going to mean. The loss of innocent lives is horrific. In Islam, in the Quran, it says to kill one life is as if you killed all of humanity. What about 1,400? That's horrific. Since that day, it's gotten more horrific. There are now over 4,500 children that will never have a chance to grow to be adults. They're dead. 4,500 children. I'm on the Board of Education in Franklin. That would be as if we took half of our school district and killed them. That's a significant number. My cousin, Mohamed, who you might have the picture of, I had it on the news, he's 21, 22 years old. He was telling us how he dreamed to come to America, how he was looking for that way, like he had hopes. In Gaza, it's a 60% unemployment. There's no way out. Most of my family that lives there has never left. My dad in 1948 remembers at gunpoint being removed from his home in Jaffa, which at the time was called Palestine, being displaced down to Gaza, and most of my family's never left there. It's 4 Franklins. If you want to look at it, it's actually a little smaller than 4 Franklins, but with 2.3 million and a 50-foot wall surrounding them. There's limited access going in and out. Many people have called it an open-air prison. Nelson Mandela, when he looked at this area, he named it an apartheid. His grandson said that it was a worse apartheid than what the people in South Africa had faced. Now, to me, I see it as an unjust system that can be rectified very easily. We need to start with equality for all, justice, and peace. The people in Palestine, by nature, are very peaceful, beautiful people. Now, of course, there's some horrible elements, but there's horrible elements in America, right? In Israel, there are as well, right? And so what we need to do is look past those people, look past the 1 million reasons why this can't work, and find the reasons why it can work. Jewish and Muslim people for centuries have lived together in harmony. Southern Spain was a beautiful example of that. Even this area is a beautiful example of that. Through time, that only got better in many cases. The past 75 years has been an example of where it's not working. And so we need to diagnose why it's not working. But I do believe that from an ethnic perspective, from a personality perspective, from a cultural perspective, there's so much commonality. From a religious perspective, if Rabbi Eli and I sat down and sort of put our central tenets down on paper, I think we'd have 99.9% agreement, right? We might disagree on Muhammad being a messenger, right? But in terms of like, what do you do when somebody steals? What do you do when is that bad or good, right? I think all of those things we'd find so much commonality. So why this separation? And I think, like you said, Franklin is very, very different. I consider Rabbi Eli to be a brother of mine, right? And I consider the whole Jewish community to be brothers and sisters with me. And we have to be able to have these conversations where I can be able to explain my pain, Rabbi can be able to explain his pain, and we don't dismiss it. Like October 7th, horrific. We don't dismiss that. Since that also horrific, can't dismiss that. But together we can say we need to end all this horror and create a solution. Now, I do think that a two-state solution is the three-state solution is, I guess, an option. I think a two-state solution is really where I think most Palestinians' hearts would be, which is Gaza and West Bank being part of one country called Palestine. There might even be a one-state solution some people propose where everybody's just flat, right? Jews and Muslims, Palestinians and Israelis, flat on one system of justice and equality where they all can work together. We had a similar system happen in America, right? Where the indigenous people, black people, Native Americans, women, all had no rights for a long time. And we all thought that was constitutional, right? For a long time, we thought, no, of course that's constitutional. Now we recognize the errors in those ways, and we've now created a simple justice system. I think if that's the baseline, equality, justice, and peace for all, then I think that's where we go. And I am hopeful for the future, and I think October 7th can be an inflection point. As painful and devastating as it was, and as devastating as the time since then has been to all people around the world, I think it could be a turning point. And I'm sorry for your arm. No, that's all right. I think this is your exercise for the day.
Hold in a little closer.
Okay, I'll try. These seats are quite large. Is that better?
Yeah, that should be fine. The one comment that I wanted to echo what you were just saying. Franklin is indeed a microcosm of what we are seeing worldwide, but we are a microcosm of what's possible. With over 65 languages spoken in our schools alone, we are a tremendous example of cultures not only living together, but thriving together. There's excellence, there's honor in this community. Of course, like any other community, there is trouble. There are things that need to be discussed and worked out. But for the most part, this is a community who has learned that tolerance is just a part of it. Kindness is at the root of it. Respect and love for our neighbors, and if that's a Pollyanna approach, I'm guilty, I think is not only possible, but we have proven that it does exist here in Franklin. There have been horrific things that have gone on. When there was a mosque where people had been murdered, Rabbi Eli had a vigil for the community, the Muslim community, when there were Jewish citizens murdered during a service. And this is a few years ago. Alex Karazi, who was the head of the mosque here, offered a vigil in support of Israel. And this is the kind of, without thought, without, oh, should I, shouldn't I? No, it was just done because it was the right thing to do. Kindness prevailed. Sentiment prevailed. The ability to stick your hand out and shake it of someone else who may have different values than you. But fundamentally, we're here to thrive on this planet. And if we don't remember love, we are going to totally lose too much?
Sami and I do not have different values. We have different opinions. Those are
Different words,
much-
I
it's
stand
a
corrected.
it's a much more narrow chasm.
I totally agree. So what do we do?
I think we start by stopping this pattern of yes, but, so that every time something horrible happens on either side, someone says, well, yeah, but you got to look at what the other side did, X, Y, and Z. Instead of yes, but, we need to say yes, and, which is to say, yes, my story is true, and I recognize that your story is also true. Thomas Friedman of the New York Times wrote in a recent column that the only way that there can be peace is if people agree to hold irreconcilable truths simultaneously. We have to be able to say, yes, I know that our opinions are oil and water on some matters. And so what? Oil and water? Well, do they make dressing? No, that's oil and vinegar. Sorry. Oil really messed up that analogy there. But yeah, don't use oil and water as dressing.
But that's a wonderful way to look at it, because acceptance is at the bottom of it. The acceptance that maybe your opinion is different from mine, maybe your structure, maybe your culture, maybe your upbringing is different than mine. But how wonderful for me to be able to discover that.
Yeah, I think the rabbi nailed it with that sort of description, that we need to be able to hold our truths and not have somebody tell us, no, that's not. And at the same time, look towards the future. We've done it many times as a human race. We've done it many times. There are many catastrophic events that have hit us. In this country, we've done it many times, whether it was the genocide of the indigenous Native Americans or the enslavement of African Americans or women's suffrage, right? We have taken what would be considered almost irreconcilable differences. Like at one point, I don't think you're human, and now all of a sudden, I do think you're human, and now all of a sudden, we are equals, right? We've been able to do that as a society, and what stands at the base here, like the rabbi so eloquently said before, are two peoples that actually their values are almost in complete alignment. So in my value system, the Quran as a scripture puts a very large status on Jewish people and Christian people. It says that those people are to be respected. In fact, Muslims can actually marry within those faiths, where they can't marry somebody who's not faithful, as an example, right? So I can't marry somebody necessarily who's not within the faith group. Similarly, I can't eat the meat, even the meat, the food I eat. I can't even eat the meat of somebody who is not somebody who's Jewish or Christian, right, as a Muslim. Like, it has to be meat that was blessed in the name of God. So if Rabbi says, I have cut this meat, and I've named, in his own words, I've put the name of God on it, then I can eat that meat with him. Like, that's how deeply entwined and how much honor there is given to the Jewish people. So how does that then translate to, oh, well, we don't like them? No, there is no we don't like them. There's an honor and a respect. Now, there's a lot of historical context of what's happened, but if we keep harping on some of those things, I don't know where we go from there. I think if we forge forward and say, look, those things happened, we need to make sure that there is equality, justice, and peace. How do we forge an agreement without anybody undermining it either? Because we've had leaders on both sides undermine them, right? I mean, just before we were talking about a lot of the other stuff that we don't necessarily need to get into right now. But we need to have faithful leaders that will guide us there. And I think a lot of that, to be honest, stems from here, stems from the United States of America, because we are one of the world's leaders, if not the world leader, and we can help forge that, and we can help teach how we did that, and how difficult a process it was, and how at one point our leaders were saying something very different, right? But now they've come together. So,
Well, again, I think both of you gentlemen sitting here are an example of exactly what you've said, and we are not going to, in this little grouping here, solve what's going on abroad. What can we do in Franklin to make a difference, to illustrate what we're talking about to move forward. The fact that you are here, that you respect each other, that you honor each other's differences. Honoring the differences is what the critical absence of is in where we are having all these atrocities right now. There is no honor for the other. And right now, the other is all of us. That we need to consider that could be our child, that could be our mother, that could be our fiance who just died in a bomb. I can't fathom what Sami Shaban is going through. And I know Rabbi Eli also have family in Israel.
Many friends.
Yes, many friends. The tragedy, the horror is real. It's human. Again, what do we do here in Franklin? How can the two of you who are sitting here right now set the example for us to teach kindness, to tap that kindness element that does give us the opportunity to see, okay, this is what we all are striving for. The ability to choose where we live, the ability to raise children in a kind environment where they learn, where they thrive, and where they treat others with the same kindness as they expect to be treated. The golden rule.
Well, we can start by eating together. That's an easy step, a peace banquet of some sort. I can't eat the meat at Halal Guys, but you probably have hummus and vegetables and olives and all kinds of stuff that I can eat. We should sit over bitter coffee. Isn't that what you drink at a Muslim memorial?
You can, yes, at some of them, yep. They do serve the little cups of coffee with some dates. Yes, that can happen.
I love the smiles. That is a lovely, lovely idea to organize a peace banquet. I think we can move on something like that. I think that's wonderful. The simplicity of sharing foods together. How basic can that be? Wow. I'm seldom without words, however. Sami, tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's indicative of sort of how small movements can sort of mean a lot. In my small development, I'm on the HOA of where I live in Franklin. And anyway, somebody had posted, there's, 500 members in the group. Somebody had posted something. And one of the Jewish families in the neighborhood posted, that post hurts me. And, I feel a little bit unsafe. And now, people had also been posting my video that had been on CBS, sort of highlighting my family. So there was a lot of condolences coming my way as well. But it somehow that somebody had posted something that went the other way a little bit. So I posted, responding just to her. I couldn't post to everybody. I've been getting thousands of messages. Everyone is so warm but I wanted to post to her, and I said to her, "You belong here, and if you ever feel unsafe, I will be the first one to protect you. Let me know. I will literally stand guard at her house to make sure that she feels fully protected as my Jewish sister," right? I think it's these small actions that speak volumes. The reason I joined the Board of Education, if you ever come to any of the board meetings, you'll find me one of the strongest advocates for our DEI, the diversity, equity, inclusion. We have the most diverse town in New Jersey outside of Jersey City. We are number 2 in terms of all of New Jersey for our diversity. The reason why I love this place. We have 70 houses of worship. Another reason why I love this place. So if we can do this in Franklin, like you're saying, and by the way, it's not just a Jewish and Muslim thing. There's a lot of Christians that live in Palestine and in Israel. There's a lot of sacred places. I think the most sacred churches, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Church of Nativity, are there, right? So we're talking about a world thing. And I think it has to be based on not ignoring our narratives, which is often the case when you try to bring cultures together and you say, well, let's just avoid those things. No, it's about discussing them, acknowledging them, and then working with each other to forge something forward. Maybe meeting with some of the representatives, meeting with people and saying, look, we don't stand with that. We don't stand with this, right? As a collective where we can. And trying to make sort of little ripples at our level that sort of get bigger and bigger.
Extend outward. I had the honor of serving on the Women's Interfaith Council, where there were three basic communities, the Jewish community, the Christian community, and the Muslim community. And we would meet on a monthly basis and discuss varying topics of social interest to us. And we were all really astounded at the similarities, not the differences, but the similarities in philosophy. The genesis may have been different, but just family values, education values, position of women in the culture. There were so many similarities and so much discovery, but the end result, or I should say, and the end result, was harmony, understanding, and new respect for each other. And I think Franklin has the opportunity, and I love the idea. This is a wonderful idea to organize some sort of a peace banquet based around food. There are so many cultures who could be represented. I think it would be a wonderful idea, Franklin. I think you're going to see the Franklin Reporter be somewhat involved in this. But again, that could be a giant step forward in achieving.
March.
Okay, so that is a target point. We have some time.
We do.
Wow. Okay. Well, Franklin and Sami and Eli, I feel somewhat lighter now, having spoken with both of you and having you represent opposing yet similar viewpoints, that we're here, we're together, we're in Franklin, and here Franklin is the example of kindness, acceptance, and validation. We wish Sami's family as much peace as is possible for you to achieve at this time of absolute grieving, and our condolences, of course. And Rabbi Eli, your voice of reason and your humor and your intellect shadow over so much of what's going on that is not right in our community. But with your guidance and with Sami's guidance as well, I think we can prevail. As small as that can be, it's our start. Again, I want to thank Sami Shaban, Board of Education member, and Rabbi Eli Garfinkel, the rabbi for Temple Bethel, for your kindness, for your willingness to be here together. And we will be keeping you posted on the next steps, Franklin. Thank you for tuning in. PJ Parker, Franklin Reporter and Advocate.